We are live. We are live. Let me check. Just make sure we that I am live before I get started here. Give me 1 second. Okay. We are live. We are live. Let me check. Make sure we. Okay, we're good. We're good to go. Good to go. Great. Super happy to be here. It's been a little while, but back by popular demand today. We looked at, if you're looking to level up, today is the day because it is all about questions and it's all about another popular session. What we have here is Q&A from our audience. We got a lot of questions. So let's get to your burning questions. All right. And let's see, what's up? Just to let everybody know, I'm Powell Chi. I'm from Radiant Storage. We're the premier self-storage investing location for those of you who want to gain real-world access and real-world experience and would come and like to join me on a property. So today, let's talk about our live stream. Here we are going to take a look at. Let me see. Let me talk. We're going to talk about our Q&A session. But before we go, if you are interested or if you'd like to take a closer look at what we do, we'd love to have you like and subscribe and stay tuned with all the material that we have coming up. Okay. So ready to get to your burning questions? All right, let's do it. Okay. So every week I get a ton of questions around self-storage investing. And I often tell people, hey, just ask me your questions because I'm going to put them out on my live stream because it's so much easier for me to just answer the questions one time and then just broadcast it out instead of answering everybody's questions which are very, very similar, right? And so if you get questions, I get questions like, what are the returns in self-storage, right? Or do you install fences at your self-storage properties? Or how do I find deals, right? Those types of things, they come up very often. They come up all the time. And so if those are your questions, we're going to get to them today. And for those of you who are in the audience, welcome. I'd love to make this as interactive as possible. I don't want it to just be me just talking to the computer here. So if you are here and you're checking in from Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, just let me know like what city you're in. So I always tell people I'm from Los Angeles. I'm not actually in Los Angeles anymore. I'm in Orange County now. I moved recently, so I have to say I'm in Southern California. So I'm in Southern California. All my investing is out of state, but let me know where you're from. And if you do use the link, I think that in the description, it'll tell you, like I can see who you are instead of just saying like Facebook user. So where are you guys located? Where are you guys at? Let me know as we get into these questions, okay? And since today is really a Q&A about self-storage, if you do have any questions yourself, type them in and let me know in the chat what those questions are, and then I'll be able to answer them at the end because I got about 5 or 6 that I've chosen for today's session. And then we'll get into just live Q&A. So, hey, Christopher, great to see you. Great to see you. Glen Falls, New York. Great. Let me put you on here. Let me give you some love on the screen here. Oops. Let me see. Christopher, hey, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Let me know if you got any questions too, Christopher, as you come in. Let's get to the questions at hand. So how about this one? The first one, I get this one a lot. You see that? Returns in self-storage, right? What are the returns in self-storage? That's a question I get all the time. And so because my background is in multifamily, and a lot of the people that I talk with are multifamily investors. I always want to know, okay, compared to say multifamily, what are the returns? And it's really hard to say. It's really subjective, right? Because every deal can be a little different. And then you're asking me, I don't know if they're asking me about necessarily my deals or they're asking me about like in general, the whole self-storage industry. So I think the easiest way to answer it is, in multifamily, generally you're trying to look for something like in the large syndication world, which sort of where I came from, you're looking at deals that are trying to double your equity, like 2x equity multiple in say 5 years, right? Through both cash flow during the hold period, as well as a sale at the end, those two sources combined, hopefully will double your equity in say 5 years. All right, we'll just say 5 years. Could be 6, could be 7, but somewhere in that range of 5 to 7 years. We'll say 5. All right. So in storage, oftentimes you're looking at the same, but I will tell you this. In storage, what I'll talk about a little about us and what I've seen is that we're looking to do refinances in this 3 to 4 year period, right? And that's also common in self-storage and multifamily as well. But in self-storage, what we're looking to do is do a 3 to 4 year refinance and return 100% of our investors' capital. So if we're returning 100% of our investors' capital, it's really an infinite returns after that period. So it might take 3 to 4 years, as initially what we project oftentimes is saying, well, it'll take us, say, 3 to 4 years to get to that point where our cash flow is high enough that the value of the property has increased so much that we can now refinance and return 100% of our investors' capital. I don't know. That's just kind of a general strategy. Now, when we're talking about what returns do I see in general, like out there, I would say that it's very common that self-storage investors and other ones that I've seen, not necessarily mine, that people are doing this refinance type of strategy and they're able to accomplish it. I've seen them in like 12 months. I've seen them in 18 months. I've seen them in 2 years. And so it can be done. It can be done pretty quickly. And it can be done, in under that 3 to 4 year period. Now, if you compare that to, say, what's happening in multifamily, are you able to do that in multifamily right now? I mean, there's people that can. I've seen people that have done that recently, but it's not too common. It's not something that's easy to do. You have to find a fairly strong or deep value add in order to have that much gain in your property. And so a lot of times you see things like in multifamily, you see a big sale, and maybe they held the property for 2 or 3 years, and they sell, and they're able to make 2x equity multiple in 3 years. Okay, well that's pretty good. The difference is, though, I would say, is that oftentimes you're relying on a big sale. If you're relying on a big sale to carry that 2x equity multiple, you're in essence sort of gambling. I don't know. You're hoping that there's a big sale at the end, right? You don't really know that there's going to be a big sale in 2 or 3 years. But if you are doing more of a strategy of, hey, I think we're going to return 100% of our investors' capital in this 3 to 4 year period, you're really not banking on a sale at all during that whole time. That's not where your returns are coming from. Your returns are coming from an improved operating. Your operations are improving so much that you should definitely have cash flow along the way, and the value of your property has gone up significantly compared to what you bought it at. Okay, so those that's kind of like a general way of talking about like the differences in returns of self-storage versus multifamily. And again, a lot of it's subjective because it's just what I happen to see, right? It's not necessarily on any one person's particular deal, because their deal could be, it could be totally, I don't have insight to every single deal, right? So it's just happened to be what I see across the landscape with both. All right. Hey, El Razan Kimpo, thanks for joining. Let's see. Oh, you're in Mission Viejo. Okay, yeah, welcome to OC. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, let's do it. Happy to, now that I'm here and I'm kind of getting acclimated to the Orange County a little bit. Certainly happy to make the rounds and everything. So, especially when I head down to that way, because my brother lives in that way. I'm a little bit more on the sort of the northeast in the Buena Park area. But yeah, if you're ever up in this area, let me know. All right, happy to get together. All right, so let's talk now. So that's question one, really about returns and self-storage. If you have any follow-up, you have any other questions, because I did sort of talk about it on a large scope. If you do have any follow-up questions, feel free to ask me. I'm happy to dive a little bit deeper into that as well. Okay, and if you can't tell, I have to get a drink because last 2 weeks I've had a cold. I don't know if it's going around. I'm sure it is going around because a lot of people have told me about it. So if you excuse me for 1 second here, okay? I'm going to put myself on mute so I'm cough. Okay. All right. Next question here. And get your questions ready. Get them ready to post, or you can post them right now. Question about fences. Okay, so we're talking about security. The question was, do you have fences around all your facilities? Okay, and I just put fences up there for you. So fences. Do we have fences around all of our facilities? The answer is no, we do not. And let me preface this by we're really talking about security. Okay, security is super important in self-storage, but fencing is just one part of security. Probably a more important part of security is lighting. Okay, and what the facility looks like at night and how safe that people feel. But fencing is also important. However, there are many places across the United States where there isn't a need to fence your facility. And so you don't need to have a fence at every single facility. At some of them, so at our facilities, some of them we do, some of them we do not. Some of them we are transitioning from not having any fencing to, yes, now we want some fencing. So we've had some issues there, and we decide that like let's pay the money to have the place fenced. Okay. Sorry, I got a cough again here. 1 second. Okay, it might get cut short today because I don't know how much coughing I'm going to be able to do, and do this. Okay, question three. Let's get into this. What, starting over? Okay, if you were to start over with no experience in large multifamily, which was my background, and you wanted to get into storage, where would you start? Okay, so if I'm basically starting from the very beginning, where would I start? And if I was starting with storage, okay. All right, this is okay. There's two routes that I would say when you're starting out with self-storage. You can either decide to do it by yourself. In other words, hey, I'm going to operate the facility, so I'm going to be the person that's going to be either in on site, or I'm going to be the one managing it from the phone calls, and I'm going to be the one taking those phone calls and making all the decisions and doing everything like that. So am I going to personally manage the facility, or am I going to have either partners or form some type of group, maybe that I might not be the one doing this, but we can take down a bigger property, and maybe the property itself can pay for somebody else to be that person, right? Because if you're at a small property, and the property is bringing in $5,000 a month or something, right? And you probably cannot afford to have, to pay somebody to either be there on site or to, to be a manager. You're going to probably need to do that yourself. But if you get into the properties that are larger and they're, 10,000 a month, 20,000 a month, well, now they can afford somebody to be the property manager there, right? So that was the first thing to decide is, am I going to be the property manager or not? I will tell you, in my cases, I'm not going to be the property manager. I'm not going to be that person that's going to be behind the phone. Okay. I'm going to scale up a little bit, work with groups. I like people. So I like bringing people together. I like doing it as a group and enjoy that. And there's certain strengths that I have, and there's certain weaknesses that I have. And I want to do things that I think are my strength. And I don't want to concentrate on things that I think are my weakness. So when you're by yourself, hey, that's great. You can do it by yourself, and you don't have to listen to anybody. You don't have to answer to anybody. But there's things that you're going to like and things that you do not like, and you're going to have to do all of it because you're the only ones that's there. Okay, so you got to decide what is your path. Me personally, I'll partner with people and go a little bit bigger. So that's what I would do. Is I would start to find partners, start to evaluate deals, and start to find who is interested in doing this and who potentially has some capital that they can put towards this deal. Find a couple of the people, find this 5, 6, 7, 8 people. Find some friends and family that are interested in doing this, that trust you what you're doing, that you can show, how excited you are to do this business, and put this little group together, and then go buy a property. Right? It doesn't have to be a large property; it can still be a small property, and get it running and see how it goes. Right, and then if it works out well, then you can repeat the process. If there's things that you need to fix within your system, then you fix those things in the system, and then get ready and go, continue on. Okay. Hopefully that helps for those of you who are getting started. That is what I would do. All right. Here's another question, interesting question that has popped up. Okay. What happens if somebody wants their money back or needs their money back? Okay, so I assume we're talking about an investment. Okay, so we have an investment, and we are moving forward with the deal, and it's maybe a year or two into the deal, and one of the investors say, "Hey, Hal, I need my money back." Okay, so we have certain exit clauses inside of there that if somebody is going to exit the property before the property closes and ceases basically to be owned by our company, we just have certain exit clauses where it's like, hey, the market value, and you're going to get a certain percentage of the market value. It's not going to be 100%, but you'll get a certain percentage of the market value, and then what we'll try to do is have somebody internally buy that out. So somebody may come in internally and say, hey, I like the deal, and I have some more money, and I'll just buy that person's shares, and I'll just sort of buy them at a discount, and then be able to stay in the deal because I like it. And so that is generally what happens, is you have to have somebody from the inside do it. If nobody from the inside does it, is willing to buy it, then somebody from the outside could come in and take that place as well, and basically purchase that spot. It's just a little bit, I would say the rest of the people that are inside of the deal probably have some voting rights, and probably have some, whether or not there's concerns there of bringing in somebody who's an outsider. Or you could split it up a little bit, right? You could half of it, one of the investors could buy half, and the other person buys the other half, right? So that's what you do if somebody wants their money back. I've never had that happen in our situations, and certainly when in our deals, when we're looking to refinance and we've already given them their money back, and they could still sell their shares and still sell for the equity piece that they have, but they don't really have any more money in the deal. So I wouldn't really understand why somebody would do that at that point. But maybe prior to that point, if they really need their money, that can be done. It's just not liquid. I would tell you that. It's not a process where you're like, hey, I need my money and I need it in like 2 weeks. It's like, it's not going to happen in 2 weeks. There's steps that you need to go through to make this, to evaluate the fair market value of what is your particular property and what is your shares of that particular property. So it's not something happens right away. Okay. But I will tell you that that's just, sort of how we do it. Everybody's LLC could be totally different, right? So whatever way that you find in the group that you are part of, that's all sort of negotiable, and that's all kind of about the operating agreement. So however you guys decide, how to give an investor their money back is really kind of on you. All right. Next question. Hey, I got 2 more questions before we get into the audience questions here as well. Okay. Asset management payment. Just out of curiosity, how do you pay your asset manager for a given property? How do we pay our asset manager? So just so, to answer that question, is our asset manager is actually on our staff. So our asset managers, we have 2 great asset managers, and we've had great asset managers in the past too as well. But currently we have 2, and they are on our staff. And so they're paid as part of being part of our staff. And so we don't have like a third party asset manager that we pay a person, or we give certain amount of equity to a third party asset manager. That's just not something we do. So hopefully that answers your question. Obviously you can. I have heard of third party asset managers out there that have that service, as well as you could bring in somebody and give them equity just to be the asset manager. But for us, it's people that we hire and we train. Okay. Here we go. Another cough here. So 1 second. Okay, back a little bit. Okay. All right. One more question before we get into the questions for you guys. Let's see. Oh, I get this one a lot. I get this one all the time. I think I just got it today. How do I find deals? Okay. So let me just start by saying, in general, there's probably two different ways to go get deals, right? There's two different ways you're looking at. Number one is you go find deals yourself, right? So you look on Google, you find out where the self-storage facilities are in your target market. So you're looking at Las Vegas, you search all of Google, you find all the self-storage facilities, you start looking on the maps and you start looking for ones that look like self-storage facilities. You search everywhere that you can to find out where are the self-storage facilities in Las Vegas. And then you start calling them. You call them, you email them, you send them postcards, you send them letters, whatever it is to make contact with these people. You do it consistently. So every 3 months, you're reaching back out to the people. And it's something that you consistently do, right? And you want to get direct to seller. This is called direct to seller marketing. Okay. Excuse me. All right. Direct to seller marketing. Why would somebody do that? I'll tell you, it's because you can often find great deals, because if you're working directly with a seller, you can get seller financing. You can get, it's easier to maybe to negotiate, right? And get get the things done. So sometimes with them, you're trying to find out exactly why are they looking to sell, right? Are they just tired of the business? Are they want to expand? They want to retire, whatever it is. With the more direct communication, you have a better relationship with the seller. And that's super important when it comes to who they're going to sell it to. Okay. Hold on one second again. I thought I was going to get through this whole thing without having to do a cough break, but I'm not even close. So, yeah, all right, overestimate. Okay, that all said, that's one side of it. Okay, we talked about direct seller. Okay, the other side is going with brokers. So there are brokers out there who basically they do all of this. They go out and they source these deals and they try to find as many owners of self-storage facilities that there are throughout their territory. They get a relationship with them. They call them every 3 months or whatever. They send out letters to them. They become good friends with them. And eventually they hope to list that property on the market. And you go to a broker and they have the deals. Okay. So the second way is to go with brokers. If you ask me how I do it, I have always used brokers to close all my deals. Okay, I've always gone through a broker. They haven't always been on market. That's a little difference, is that sometimes some of my deals have been off market, where I've had a deal where nobody saw it. I know that the seller didn't tell anybody about it, so but I would still use the broker. And then I've had another deal where I think maybe one other party saw it besides us, but we still used it was a broker that brought it to us, and we closed it with the broker. Okay, so I use brokers. I become friends with brokers and gain their trust and talk to them about my track record. Talk to them about what I'm looking for and what we can do, and then I look to close the deal. Okay. All right. Now we are into the Q&A portion. All right. Before we get into the Q&A, I would love it if you guys could give me a thumbs up. A thumbs up would be awesome. Subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Hey, we got a Facebook user today who says, how's the market? Okay, how's the market? A very, very general question. But I will tell you, it's very kind of up and down, right? It's kind of like, whoa, what's going on with the market, right? With all the lending, the lending side, the senior debt lenders out there are a little bit jittery right now. So that is, that's kind of how they are right now. Okay. And by jittery, I mean that they're not able to necessarily lock down the interest rates. So they'll tell you, okay, this is what the interest rate is it would be if we close today. But, if you're closing in 60 days, I don't know. It's going to be somewhat around here, and they'll kind of give you a sort of a little bit of range, or they'll tell you, how they base the interest rates, but they oftentimes will not lock the rate today and say, yeah, we'll lock it today and we'll give it to you for 60 days or something like that. Okay. Hopefully that answered your question. Thank you, Facebook user, for asking that question. Okay. Christopher got a question here. Are you finding more buying opportunities in this economic environment due to people over leveraging themselves in the bull market? So, I would say the quick answer is yes. I'm finding more buying opportunities right now. There are less buyers out there. There are less serious buyers and buyers that are going to be able to close out there right now. It is more difficult to get things done right now. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily always because of over leveraging. It's just that there's more opportunities because there's just also less buyers in the market right now. Okay. All right, but great question. All right, Facebook user, thanks for showing up. Long Island, thank you. Okay. And we got another question from her, Christopher. Is there a property with a building? If there's a property with a building that can be used to be a plant nursery / agricultural store, could this be a great self-storage conversion? Okay. Should an environmental study be done just for storage? Okay. So depending on their plant, your nursery, your agricultural store, depending on what the bones are, it could be, right? And I don't know if you mean like a greenhouse and it's just kind of like a, oh, hold on a second. I gotta blow my nose for a second. It's probably. Okay. That's what happens when you're live, right? That's what happens when you're on live stream. I don't cut any of this stuff out. It's just, it is what it is. All right. So let's see, the question about plant nursery, agricultural store, like I said, it depends on what you're talking. I don't know if you're talking about a greenhouse where it's just like, hey, this very kind of flimsy exterior, versus you're talking about an agricultural store, which is like a retail store and it's just a gigantic store and it has, it has 18-foot ceilings and electrical and plumbing throughout and things like that. If it is the second, the latter, I would say that it could be a good self-storage conversion. It has the possibility, right? There's more than just that, than just like what's the type of building it is that go into whether it's a great self-storage conversion. So I wouldn't be afraid of it. I would say that I could move forward, but there would be certain other steps that you would need to take, such as you mentioned, part 2 here. Should an environmental study be done just for self-storage? Okay. Should an environmental study be done? I will tell you the answer is yes. And I will tell you that the bank is probably going to say it's not a should, it is a must. So depending on how you buy the property, right? If you buy it in all cash, well, you don't have a bank, and so you don't have anybody telling you to go do an environmental study. So you don't have to. But if you get a bank or a lender, they're probably going to say, yeah, you're going to get an environmental study done, and it's going to cost you $4,000 or something like that, $8,000. I don't know. Depends on how big it is. So the environmental study, yes, I would say that if you're going to spend, $3 million in buying a property, you should probably spend the $5,000 to get an environmental study done, just so that you're not buying something that all of a sudden has all these pesticides underground or oil or stuff that has leaked into the groundwater. 50 years ago, it was a chemical plant or a dry cleaner. That was the one that I find that like one of my apartments that I bought, it was like, yeah, 100 years ago, there was a dry cleaner here. And I was like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. And it's like, no, that's bad. That's really bad. And I was like, oh, okay. Okay. Like, so why was it so bad? And they're like, yeah, 100 years ago, they didn't care about any kind of solvents and stuff. They just dumped that in the ground. They know. So nowadays we have people living here, and so all that stuff is still like in the ground. So I'm like, oh, okay. Learning experience there. So although in storage, again, nobody should be living there. But again, if you buy a property and there happens to be environmental issues at your property that are affecting the apartment your neighbor 2 blocks down, and somebody needs to fix it, well, guess who's going to fix it? You have to. And so, yeah, I would suggest that you would just go ahead and move forward with the environmental studies. All right. Not a big thing. And just so you know, just to get a little deeper into that, there's a phase 1, which is kind of the first part of the environmental study. And that's generally a little bit more paperwork, where they're just kind of looking over the historicals of like what has been at this facility ever since it's been, erected. And then phase 2 is more of the actual testing. Okay. All right. Facebook user, hey Powell, thank you for joining. Facebook user, Facebook user agree on the phase 2. I think agree on the phase 2. Yeah, you never know what happens. So any other follow-up questions other than that? I really appreciate you guys joining me here. I try to do this, like I said, I'll try to do this on occasion where I get some time. Like I've been sick, and you guys can tell that I'm still recovering from it. So let's see here. I got one last question. One last question that came in. It's the last one. What size units are the best? Okay, well, that's a pretty subjective question, because I don't know what you mean by the best, right? If I have a boat, it's like I need a big unit, right? So it's the best ones are the ones that can fit the boat, right? They're not smaller ones. So it's hard to say which are the best. I'll tell you the smaller ones, generally you have a higher dollar per square foot, right? So a 5x5 is going to command a higher dollar per square foot, but you don't want to have just a billion 5x5s, because the people that rent 5x5s is a small portion of people. Not as many people are renting a 5x5, right? Even though a 5x5 might get you $2, $3 a square foot, whereas a 20x20 or a 10x20 or 10x30 might get you, 80 cents a square foot, right? And so you would say, well, dollar per square foot, it's much better to have 5x5. Yes, but you just can't have your whole facility be a bunch of 5x5s, because you're not going to have that type of renter in there. And I will tell you, I don't know about everywhere. I will tell you that at least on my facilities, the bigger units are more popular. So when 10x20s are our biggest at some of them, 10x30s, 10x40s, those ones are, when people rent them, they rent them and they stay there. Those ones, like, people rent them, they cost the most, not dollar per square foot, but people stay there, and they're very, very popular. So when somebody leaves, they get snatched up pretty quickly. Whereas 5x5s, it's like you're going to have, depending on the size of the facility, you might have 30 5x5s. And, at any given time, half of them are vacant anyway. And it's going to be really hard to fill up the rest of those 5x5s. It's just they come and they go and they come and they go. But for them to be consistently filled up, pretty difficult. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for staying with me. I do have questions that people ask about our investing with us. I do have a real estate fund, investing fund, and this fund invests in our deal. So if you're interested in investing with us, you can see the link below or see in the description. There's a place to fill out some information about becoming, if you're interested in joining us on our deals. These are generally 506c. This fund is a 506c, so it's for accredited investors only. But you can invest in our fund, and our fund invests inside of our deals as well. Okay, the minimum for investment is $25,000 and you can spread that out through many different deals inside of our fund. Also, as far as mentoring, a lot of people ask me about mentoring, education program. I don't have an education program. This is my education that I give to people to just talk about deals, but I don't have any formal education program. But in terms of mentoring, there are some, depending on how involved you want to be in the deal, there are some opportunities, limited opportunities to be part of more of a mentoring side where you're actually learning a lot more of what we're doing. You're involved in a lot more of the decision making that goes on. You're involved in the early on what happens inside the deal from basically from the very beginning. If those are things that you're interested in, you want to get real hands-on experience, let me know. Reach out to me directly, and we can talk about those programs. Okay, so that's it for tonight. Don't forget, give me a thumbs up. Love it, and let's plan to do this again real soon. And if you do have any questions, definitely shoot them my way because we will feature your questions on a future live stream. Okay, talk to you all later. Take care.